don't speak that language. And I feel like sometimes that stuff kind of gets translated incorrectly.
Yeah, fair.
There's some cool history behind it. It weirdly has some strange big names associated with this area too.
Okay.
George Washington had surveyed the British troops from one of the ridges of the mountains.
I'm gonna be honest with you. From the second that you said New Jersey, all I'm thinking about is like a ghost town inhabited by all of the Real Housewives of New Jersey right now.
Dude, I can't handle the Real Housewives.
Maybe throw a few mob wives in there too. I don't know, even though they were from New York, but whatever.
I was like, you're a monster.
Yeah. Just prostitution whores.
Well, it is about 25 minutes from New York, so maybe.
Oh, okay.
It was originally constructed as Washingtonville in like the early days, but as soon as the post office was like up and running, it was rejected because they thought that New Jersey already had a lot of places that were named something Washington. And they were like, this is too much. You just need to just change it, dude.
I mean, I get that. There's a lot of things in the area that are given like Lincoln names. I could see it.
Yep, because we're going to cling on to that real hard.
Tiger Balm, that's what that is.
Yes, I need it on my person.
I'm happy for
my
you.
mannequin arm is injured. My coccyx is injured.
I just got a mental image of you on the back of a motorcycle. Mannequin.
I need to go. The first mayor of the town was Henry Baldwin McDonald. And even into the 1960s, it was still a small enough town that almost every single person knew each other. Mm-hmm. So it would just be like, oh, what's up, Bob? Like when we went to go get Havoc.
Yes.
And everyone knew everyone in that town. It was disconcerting.
Yes, which I could not live in a town like that.
I don't want you to know what I'm doing.
I don't want you to be all up in my business like that.
In 1967, the Plainfield riots had caused a lot of people to move from larger cities down closer to this area. Apparently, in 1938, when Orson Welles' War of the Worlds was broadcast, National Guard troops were put around the hills in this area as well.
Okay.
Which I always think, because there was a massive panic, because they thought it was real. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
The broadcast of War of the Worlds.
Oh, yes. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yes. That's really funny.
Yeah. It's super, super duper white in this area, because it's New Jersey, I guess. I don't know. It is what it is. It's a small town. I don't really feel like there's a lot of small towns where there's any sort of mixture.
Yeah. You know, that whole New Jersey culture there. Is it Taylor ham or is it a pork roll?
Real Housewives?
The Jersey Shore reference.
Oh, I definitely don't know that at all. In 1845, David Felt had set out to build a small village near this particular area. He named it Feltville after himself, because you could at that time, I suppose. The legend of this particular area says that over 2 years, 11 children were captured, mutilated, and left for dead. I saw literally no evidence of this. Well, I'm going to tell you.
Oh, that's rude.
Their bodies were left on the outskirts of town, and then the town obviously started panicking. Weird other fun facts about this, like this particular area, before I get into the spooky stuff. Chaka Khan, Laura Prepon, and Cat Williams are from here. Or so says the internet.
Chaka Khan?
Mm-hmm. I was like, get it, Chaka Khan! So, Felt of Feltsville. Fame, clearly. Sold the property after about 15 years living there. And then a lot of different places like came in and tried to make the economy a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But they failed. And eventually it became known as the Deserted Village. In 1882, it was bought by Warren Ackerman, who had made a summer resort there called Glenside Park. But it failed.
That was going to be my guess. You know, I had a fun feeling that was going to happen.
You know?
I had a funny feeling it was going to happen.
And it was abandoned again. So eventually the Union Country Park Commission purchased the property and then had made it into what is now considered the Watchung Reservation. And they rent houses, families in need. The last known, I guess, amount of humans that are going to be permanent residents there, it said about 3 families. But it was from a couple years back, so it could be more or less. Not sure.
Mm-hmm.
It is open for visitors that want to learn the history of it, or just to kind of look around and be like, ooh, look, it's outside and pretty.
Well, yeah, check out something cool.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems kind of like a common theme for ghost towns, right?
I mean, I like ghost towns.
Yeah, I'm super into it. I've only ever been to a couple, though. And they've all weirdly been in... they've all been in Arizona.
There's a lot in Arizona, though.
But also, too, that's because, like, that's the only place I've spent enough time to actually...
wander.
Yeah.
The deserted village has cottages, a small store, and a church, a cemetery, and what's left of the mill, which is technically the reason that Felt had actually gone there, because he wanted to provide some sort of housing for the mill workers.
Yeah.
To be fair, a lot of what I have on the deserted village is, like, personal accounts.
Yeah, but that's kind of fun, though, too.
It's funny, too, because apparently Feltville and Felt himself was King David for a little bit, which I'm like, pretentious.
Is it like a biblical type of thing that I'm picking up there? No?
Mm.
King David. Because he was in charge of it? He was, like, running the show?
I guess. It's weird, too, because he actually even went to a level where he built dormitories for the separation of sexes at the time.
Dormitories for different sexes? Huh. Was he, like, religious?
All it says is he was, quote, said to be a cold, reserved man who ruled with methodical strictness.
So probably religious.
Possibly. I mean, it's not a bad time for that to be the basis of, like, someone working under pretending they're pious or whatever.
It's hard to say. You made a face.
So the workers would work 6 days a week, and on Sundays they were required to go to church. A bell at his house would ring at 7 in the morning for work, at noon for lunch, and then at the end of the workday, additionally, it would ring at 9, where everyone had to be in their house. I mean, whatever. That's where you want to be, man.
I guess, but there's just a lot of other places I would want to be. Bring me somewhere where the bell rings at 9 and the shots are half price.
Oh my gosh. You're such a dingbat. It's strange, too, because I read a couple of things that said that some people thought it was almost like a utopian, self-sustaining area.
Like people that were part of it or people on the outside?
I think on the outside.
Okay.
That's super culty for me, with the bells and, like, the very strict guidelines of when you're supposed to.
It sounds very culty. I could see where a situation like that could maybe go bad real fast.
I mean, it didn't really go bad. It just, just went abandoned. It wasn't like there was, like, murder.
Well, I mean, not like Jonestown bad, but like, I could see where it maybe would not.
Yeah, there's whiffs
of cult. A great
of cult.
environment. Yeah.
There's whiffs of cult in here.
Yeah.
Albeit,
there's fragrant notes of it.
Yes.
Like a fine wine.
Like the massive amount of cacao that's in the stout. Stop doing that, brewers. Stop.
I'm picking up notes of berry, cacao, dead animal, and cult.
You're dumb. A lot of people, when they go into the deserted village, say that it's really neat and it's really cool, like the history behind it. But you also get some sort of, I'm not supposed to be here, or foreboding sometimes in accordance to the people that have gone. There are windows that you can look through and see murals that were painted in the 20s. There's a small graveyard that obviously people in the town were utilizing. Mm. It has the tombstone of the first person to settle, which is John Wilcox. He died in 1776. Supposedly there are satanic and or cult and or witches rituals that happen there. Obviously only on the full moon.
I love how it's very different things. We're talking satanic and then the witches.
And cults.
Because all the witches believe so deeply in Satan. All of them.
Another person that had gone had said that they felt really creepy, that the people that are currently living there don't seem very friendly. Yeah, man, I don't want you coming into my house. If there's some wackadoodle wandering down my street, I'm like, you're not familiar. This is odd. Supposedly, nothing kind of looks like it's occupied, even the places that are. People see shadows in windows, but with the previous statement where it was like, well, it doesn't really look like these places are lived in, but some of them are. I feel like it could have been just someone walking in their own home while some wackadoodle is wandering through their neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Weren't we saying that there were only, like, so many people that live there now, though?
Yeah, there's like 3 families.
So,
supposedly. Maybe more, maybe less, not
So it's mostly like a very deserted area, but there's just some buildings that are inhabited, just a few.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
That's what I was picking up from it, but I just wanted to make sure. Also, that's kind of... Yeah, I can see where that could be confusing, though, because if there's only, like, a few people that live there, like, how do you know which buildings are inhabited and which ones aren't?
Well, and the worst part about it, too, is because it was pretty much deserted, you know, people, like, teenagers and stuff like that would go up there to drink or party or, like, whatever. So I get how I wouldn't be super into someone coming to my area and then throwing some stupid party and then having to do the cleanup work for the idiots that did it.
Yeah, also, find a better spot. The backseat of your friend's Ford Fiesta. Like, what are you doing?
You're so stupid. There's also a place in this area that's called the Enchanted Forest. It's something that was a rumor, and I'm almost thinking that it might be one of those situations where, you know, when you're younger and you just kind of talk about, like, oh, you want to go to this place? My cousin's friend's sister went to this place this one time or whatever. A fof?
A friend of a friend.
Oh, heard.
Yeah.
I feel like you've done that to me before, and I just don't do short names well.
Well,
I'm
that's how urban legends are passed around. Well, a friend of a friend told me this thing.
Oh, well, sure.
You know? Yeah.
Supposedly, this is where the witches hang out, and this person specifically that I'm reading the story from was like, well, I have zero problem with witches because whatever they're into, and it's not like they're hurting anyone, they're just kind of in nature, so I just leave them alone.
Okay, well, that's a healthy way to look at things.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, but sure.
Supposedly, there's human sacrifice that's randomly thrown out here. Yup.
Yeah.
We both know how I feel about, like, what? Shut up. It's so stupid.
Tiffany went there last year with her boyfriend, Steven, and when they got there, they were totally sacrificing two twins. It was so hot.
Oh my god. I hate you.
The conical hats were on fleek.
People feel like they're being followed sometimes, but it's woods. You can make anything happen in your brain when you're walking. Like, maybe you're a little bit skeezed out. You're like, someone's following us.
Yeah, and also, yeah, fear is a real thing. The mind can do interesting things.
Yeah. A lot of this is like, I found some random fires that had just been put out. And you're like, it's woods.
Yeah, like, but somebody took the time to go ahead and put them out, too, on top of that, so... Or,
like, sometimes there's, like, stone placements and stuff like that that is somehow indicative that someone's practicing something out there, which, whatever, stone.
But I do feel like the interesting thing is, obviously there is the whole aspect to it that enough people jump on the bandwagon, it's, like, a widely enough told story that, we just said, the mind plays tricks on you, so sometimes, like, you go there expecting something to happen, and maybe you do invent something through no fault of your own that happens. I also feel like, if there is a large number of stories about a location, about it being haunted or people having very strange experiences there, if even one of them is true and like not fabricated, then that makes it real, right? I don't know. I feel like not everybody can be making it up, right?
I don't think so, but then there's also the idea where if you hear it enough times, it becomes true.
Yeah, like it becomes real to you.
Right, and it's something that literally can change your memory to make it actually true, which it's not. Mm-hmm. Or rather, it could not be, you know. This person specifically had gone on a full moon and had walked through the forest and had heard chant-like singing.
It sounds lovely.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah, whatever, dude. This person specifically says, quote, I don't care what anyone's beliefs are, just don't try to eat my heart out of my chest while I'm still breathing. Dramatic.
Well, we could never date.
Person is...
What a stipulation.
People get bad vibes, and like I said a little bit before, they see shadows in and out of the trees, which, once again, it's the woods. There's things that live in the woods. Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to disprove this whole thing. There's a really interesting legend about it that I'm going to get to in a minute.
You know, it's really funny that you said that, though, because I was going to say, I feel like part of it, too, is there's also a very real thing about what's tethered to the land. Sometimes land has an energy of its own.
There's a ravine that is a little bit more hidden around this area, and another person's friend had the, quote, urge to leave very strongly.
To throw themselves off.
And then had noticed strange shadows as they're trying to leave quickly.
Yes, that is a real thing.
They identified the shadows as almost like static in a TV.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I don't know that I've heard a lot of things described like that, but I'm obviously not a professional. I don't know. But like static in a TV, huh?
It just reminds me of like, there's a Doctor Who episode that I was like,